Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's On Conversation. Looking forward to the discussion today. Today, we're going to be going over how to improve forecasting by using retail data analytics. Very highly anticipated session with a lot of registrations flowing into a very last minute here. So I'm looking forward to today's conversation via our panel of experts. We're going to explore things like managing the replenishment process, avoiding costly stockouts, hear how key accounts are collaborating together to be able to sell more. So we're going to be hearing about that from our industry experts from companies like Airhead Sports Group, Osprey Packs, and Obus Footwear. I'm Colby Bolin. I'm the director of our analytics division here at SPS Commerce. My role today is going to be able to help answer all of your questions that you may have, get the panelists to answer all your questions that you have, as well as keep track of time, making sure we're staying on track there. So as we go along here, we're going to be digging in a little bit more to the task at hand, the topic at hand. So we really want to hear from you. We want to hear from what questions you may have. We want to hear what's burning in your brain. What do you want to know about forecasting? So as you go through this webinar and as you're listening to the panelists talk, feel free to drop us a question. Feel free to drop us a question in the Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom, and we want your feedback. So we'll be answering those questions at the end, as many as we can. So feel free to add those in throughout the conversation. So we're going to start off here and get into a little poll question before we get going. So you should have seen this pop up on the screen here, so answer if you would. Question is, how frequently do you have up-to-date access to point of sale and inventory data? Is it weekly, monthly? Maybe some of you are getting that as needed or are requesting that for some of your customers, or maybe some of you aren't getting any of that today. So would love to start off the conversation here with some responses and see where's everybody's at. I know that everybody's at a little bit different place in their evolution with looking at point of sale data. So we'll take a look at some responses coming in as we go along. So you should see here. So looks like the overwhelming majority here, 68%, get it on a weekly basis. That's pretty common. That's mostly what we see here. Next biggest one is kind of as needed, and not to be surprised there. So hopefully we can work through that here today. And so as we go along here, I wanted to introduce our panel, a panel of experts that have graciously agreed to come in here and to talk a little bit about their knowledge. So just want to introduce them and welcome them to the conversation here. So first off, Stephanie Dominguez, Key Accounts Analyst at Obus Footwear. Stephanie, thanks for coming in here today.
Hi, nice to be here.
Yeah. Steve Lowry, Sales and Operational Planning Manager at Obus. Thank you, Steve.
Hey, Colby, looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, and Darby McGuinn, Senior Key Accounts Manager at Osprey Packs. Hey, Darby.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and then Ryan Sawyer, Sales Manager at Airhead Sports Group. Hey, Ryan.
Hi, excited to be here.
All right, so joining us today too, we've got a couple of SPS facilitators. So Caitlin Lindberg, Strategic Account Executive. Hey, Caitlin.
Hey, Colby, thanks for having us today.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got Account Executive Jack Greeley going to join us as well to help facilitate some of the questions. Hey, Jack.
Hey, Colby. Thanks for having us. Looking forward to the discussion today.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. And then last but not least, we have Claire Kraskowski from our Retail Intelligence team, who's going to show us a little bit about SPS Analytics in the middle of our conversation today. Hey, Claire.
Hey, Colby, thanks for having me. Excited for today.
Absolutely. All right. So with that, I am going to pass it over to Caitlin to help get our conversation started here today. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Thanks, Colby. Hi, everyone. So we're super excited to have Darby from Osprey and Ryan here from Airhead. Thank you guys both for joining us to talk about your business and how you guys are using point of sale data and inventory data to help you guys with your companies to stay ahead. To start us off today, can you guys tell me a little bit about your company and your role? Darby, let's have you start off.
Sure. Thanks, Caitlin. Osprey is a leading brand and manufacturer of backpacks and travel gear. We're located, our headquarters are in Southwest Colorado. We're surrounded by all the outdoor activities in the mountains and the high desert can provide to inspire our mission for adventure in the outdoors. Our sales department totals 44 employees. This encompasses both our dealer service and customer service teams, as well as our repair and warranty teams. We have 5 managers of different channels. I work directly with several of our national accounts on all aspects of the business, including optimizing in-season sales opportunities, as well as future assortments.
Awesome. Thanks, Darby. And Ryan?
Hi, I'm Ryan Sawyer with Airhead Sports Group. We're located in Denver, Colorado, just across the mountains from Darby and her team. We specialize in water sports and winter sports products. We have 3 brands that fall under the Airhead Sports Group umbrella. One being our premium summer products, which is the Airhead brand, and that kind of encompasses boat towables, life vests, wake surf, lake floats, and anything you'd find that's more of a premium feel that's going onto a lake. The Sports Stuff brand, it kind of bridges across both seasons, so winter and summer, which includes summer toys, winter sleds, sled tubes, as well as winter toys. And then our premium winter offering comes from the Yukon Charlie's brand, which is snowshoes and premium sleds. For Airhead Sports Group, we're a pretty lean organization. We have a sales team of about 9 total, which includes our VP, sales managers, and sales coordinators. And my focus is primarily on the large outdoor retailers, independent accounts. Then I have a couple of mass accounts here and there. But we really, as a team, work across many different verticals within the organization.
Thanks, Ryan. This year was one for the books, that's for sure. And I know that both of you saw demand shifts that required you guys to take action pretty quickly. Can you guys describe to me a little bit about your past 12 months and how you used analytics to manage your business and improve your forecasting? Ryan, let's have you go first this time.
Sure. So it's definitely been a wild ride for the past, call it 12, 13, 14 months for us. Initially we saw several cancellations of orders coming in March and April when really no one knew what was going on or what the future held with the pandemic. So that created a lot of issues for us, many of the orders being import containers that are going direct to the customer DCs, as well as orders that are coming out of our DC during closure. So it really everything came in 3 phases. So like phase 1, the sales, or what customers did is they didn't have anything to do, so they went outside in droves, it seemed like. So sales initially really exploded on any type of DTC platform or direct to consumer. So Amazon, Dick's Sporting Goods, anybody who had our product online really started to blow up, which we do a lot of drop shipping out of our warehouse. And we really went from 0 sales to, holiday numbers within a matter of a couple of weeks. So that really went extremely fast and put a lot of pressure on our warehouse as well as our shipping lines. So phase 2 was kind of like the curbside pickup, where customers started picking stuff up at the store on curbside. They could order it online, and then they would be brought out to their car, and then really went into phase 3, where stores began to open up a little bit and allow a certain number of customers in for buy online, pick up in store. So from a seasonal product perspective, which is what we are, the timing really couldn't have been worse for summer product, as product usually ships right in that window to fulfill stores to have product for customers. So, that was very difficult for us with everything being closed. We were shut down for a while. Our major accounts were shut down for a while. And with them killing some import orders, they typically take 4 to 5 weeks to get from factory to their DC or to our DC, and then another couple of weeks to get out. So we really had a lot of delays that created threats to missing sales. So the customers that did cancel orders and the ones that we were backed up on were desperately trying to find product once the consumer demand spiked so drastically. So we really had 3 months of orders that we needed to ship within 1 month. So it was extremely compacted for us. And on top of that, we experienced an extended season through the year. So we never really saw sales trail off. They kind of just hit the end of September, early October, and went straight into winter. So The biggest challenge for us was identifying what inventory levels look like, not only internally, but also at the account level to understand what their needs were, what we had, and what we could do to fill those gaps and find inventory in our DC to get product into stores, regardless of whether it was their standard offering for the season. So I would say that roughly 70, 80% of my time in mid-April through August was spent monitoring inventory, both at the store level as well as within our DC to find products to ship out to them. So it was a huge chunk of time over the past, 12 months looking at inventory numbers and understanding what was going on in the market.
Wow, that sounds like a good and busy year for your team. Darby, what was your life like at Osprey?
I would say what Ryan described is very similar to what we experienced throughout the year. Early on, it was reacting to those store closures that he mentioned and the shifts of where the business was happening. But ultimately, we saw a significant increase in demand in our pack category as more and more people were getting outside close to home and responding to those changes in demand and reacting and similarly filling the needs where we could and sending those demand signals. And on the contrasting side to that, reacting to the suppressed demand across the travel category and how we best manage those. And I would say we used analytics to help manage both scenarios, both the increased demand in one category as well as the suppressed demand in another.
Thanks, Darby. I'm sure you aren't alone in experiencing these kinds of shifts. Can you both describe to me how you guys are both using point of sale data at your companies, primarily for your planning as well as informing others in the organization? Darby?
Sure, I use performance analytics to evaluate sales and performance in stocks across my accounts. And I use that in order my leadership teams and internal teams on trends and changes in the business that I'm seeing. Over the past year, that's been even more critical to monitor the changing environment as we moved through and saw continuous change. So I use the analytics information the SPS feed to pull into BI tools. That allows our internal teams to take a greater and deeper look at the business as well through our tools. And it allows us to compare our sell-in information to our sell-through data from our dealers and give all teams in the building greater access and
Thanks, Darby. Ryan, how about at Airhead? I know you personally had been using data analytics at a previous company, but analytics is newer to Airhead.
Yeah, it's extremely new to Airhead, and we had kind of an old way of doing things. So it's really been we're still learning and gathering information on all the info that we can, all the data we can get from our dashboard. So we're right now really focused on utilizing the data at the account level to help plan shipments and adjust POs to get product out that we have and fill gaps for products for customers where they may not have the product that we currently have in the DC here. So the account inventory is really key with the delays that we're experiencing due to materials constraints, container shortages, port delays. Those are all impacting our business severely this year. So we really have to look at what the customer's selling and find light items that we have to fulfill the customer need during those gaps while we're still waiting for product to arrive in our DCs. So, as far as implementing how we're using it internally, as many as you can probably understand, change can be a little bit difficult when it comes to having new data and a new way of doing business and reviewing your numbers. So we're really kind of taking that step by step and trying to understand what a concise plan and rollout would look like for training to our internal teams, just to make sure that everybody can adopt it and understand it fully. So we're probably going to take that in steps. So I'm more of the initial user of everything in my team. So we look at numbers and follow and how we're going to utilize it, and then we'll roll it out to the bigger team in more of a broad stroke. So just because I'm familiar with it from other organizations, as you spoke to earlier, it's easier for me to get in and utilize it and understand how we should use it. So when we look at like daily tasks and what I'm doing, mine have adjusted by focusing on, monitoring the sales and inventory of each product that the account carries, and then communicating with the account where we see areas of concern on inventory levels, as well as where there may be areas where we have more product in one location than another location in the U.S. So that's really key. And then understanding what the market's doing overall through all of our customers under my umbrella, and providing that kind of feedback to accounts at their level, just more of a broad stroke. So that gives us just the ability to guide the direction of the customer with fact-based data, which can really have an immediate impact on what we're doing now, but also looking at what we can do in the future, and what experimenting with items that really work for them, and maybe add that to the assortment, next year or next season. So as I spoke to earlier, I spent about 70 to 80% of my time looking at inventory during April through August of last year. And really, since we've brought on the SPS analytics, that time has been cut by half to 3/4. So it's been very helpful to have it all in one location, to be able to run a report and understand what's going on and get the feedback out to the customers in a quick manner.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm so glad you guys are both seeing the impact of point of sale analytics on a weekly basis. Ryan, from previous conversations that you and I have had, I know that you mentioned that Airhead was somewhat of a data-starved company to where you are at now. Can you describe to me how you guys used to manage sell-through at Airhead and how you are doing it today?
Sure. So, historically, we had probably 10, 15 different Excel documents that we would have to search through and pull different data in, and as well as, our ERP system to look and see what sales out were. We really never had visibility to what the sell-through was, which, you can sell product in all day long, but if you're not selling it through, that's where we really see the problems and things to back up. So we really don't know if something's successful or unsuccessful unless they're reordering. So, it wasn't really a good approach, to be honest. And Airhead Sports Group, we really couldn't be viewed as a partner in the business, as we were always asking for information from their side rather than having it at our fingertips or having access to it. So we really relied on the customer to determine what they need, and to pour through all of our entire portfolio to decide what an offering and our assortment would be, or what they need. And as you know, that way of business is extremely antiquated, especially from a brand like Airhead Sports Group, where in the towable industry, we're one of the category leaders. So we really need to have access to that information and understand it, and be able to communicate what the market is doing overall. So that, coupled with the bandwidth of merchants, getting smaller and smaller, they're always asked to do more on their side. We really weren't set up to give solid information and create tailored assortments or tailored recommendations to the accounts. So, fast forward to now, and what we've done over the past 6 months or so, we're really honing in on building out recommendations based on account-wide data and information, and identify opportunities that were previously unknown. And for example, we were able to look at the assortment for winter for 21-22 for one of our major customers, and narrow it down to, here's what was really performing for your dropship sites, and what may be a good idea to bring into store. And it wasn't necessarily something that they had looked at, not because they don't have the information, but to have that time to work across the multiple vendors that they have. It's easier for us to go to them and say, hey, here's the assortment we recommend, here's why, and here's the numbers to back that up. So that's extremely important to us, and just being able to utilize the information that we have on a daily basis or a weekly basis to provide immediate feedback, build those recommendations, and understand the opportunities that are out there for them. So, it's been great for us so far, and I think that we will continue to see that kind of strategy and data-backed information, as well as some other pieces that we know about the market and what's going on in other industries that affect our market, and be able to go into the accounts with a much more concise narrowed down product assortment that makes sense for them, where they can look over it once or twice and give us the thumbs up and move forward.
Thanks, Ryan. Darby, this one's for you, as I know Osprey has traditionally relied heavily on industry trade shows to build relationships, launching new products, and setting your year up for success. And with these events no longer happening or just starting to occur again, how have you guys reallocated your budgets from these events, and how are you guys reaching out to your customers in a new fashion?
Well, I would say, like everybody else in the industry and across the country, we've gone virtual. Many of our meetings are virtual, and with that, I would say the frequency of our business conversations has increased, and our product reviews are all digital. So we're talking more frequently, and with that, we've been able to share data often ahead of times or throughout the conversations, and I think it has helped us collaborate and be more efficient in those meetings and in the process of understanding our opportunities. And analytics has often helped with that. And additionally, as far as product launches and how we're approaching them differently, I would say analytics has helped us navigate some of the timings of those product launches as we've gone through the past year and understood where our dealers were within the product line.
Thank you both for your remarks, and we will have you guys both back for our Q&A to answer any questions from our audience. Attendees, just a reminder to feel free to submit any questions that you may have in the Q&A throughout the discussion. So now please welcome my colleague, Claire Kraskowski, who is here to show us a quick demo of the SPS Commerce Analytics solution and some of its capabilities. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Caitlin. Thanks for passing it over to me. So again, thank you, Caitlin, and thank you to our panelists for sharing all of their insights on SPS Commerce Analytics and how the tool has allowed you to better analyze your business. To further illustrate how to dive into the data, or magic as I like to say, I'm going to show you a couple dashboards that can be utilized in our analytics tool today. The first is going to be what you see here. It's one of our newest resources that we are able to roll out to our users as an existing template within the solution. This dashboard is a visual way that you can gain easy and immediate insights into performance, as well as identify opportunities and risks across key areas of your business in order to make informed business decisions today and in the future. When we go to the very top of this dashboard, we're going to see it's a last week sales summary. So this is showing us our data from a last week perspective. We can easily see our retail sales up here at the top and compare that to this week last year, so our variance to last year. Quickly, we can see that we're up, as an example in our demo today, 34.2% to last year. As you go across the top, many of the important metrics that our panelists were talking about are listed here. We can see our retail on hand, our gross margin percentage, our sell-through data, as well as our weeks of supply. These are all key metrics to be able to quickly analyze to better dive into the business and understand what exactly is going on. Below these key performance indicator metrics, we see 4 bar graphs showing a this year versus last year comparison, this year being in blue, last year being in gray, across 4 important areas of the business, which in our demonstration today is going to be product category, store, silhouette, and style. From a really quick and easy top side view, I can see that footwear is driving the overall business, and I can drill into this further actually. I can go ahead and click into this bar right here where it says footwear. And I'll see that the dashboard will update on these additional bar graphs here. So I can see further information on store level, silhouette, and style to see really what's driving my category within the footwear industry. I want to be mindful of these areas to ensure we avoid any risks to out of stocks. Again, footwear is a huge driver of our business, so we need to make sure all of these top drivers continue to do what they're doing. We can also engage filters as needed. So that's going to be on the left side of our screen. I can deselect footwear just by clicking outside of the bar and navigate over to the left side of the screen where I see these different filters: retailer, product category again, silhouette, and gender. You can simply use the drop down and either unselect the all selection and then either click into one individual selection, or you can make multiple at once. For instance, if you just wanted to look at adults, so maybe women's and men's, and not select kids, you could go ahead and do that and just simply select OK. The tool allows ample flexibility to hone in on one area or multiple areas of the business with a simple click or clicks of a button. I'm going to go ahead and go back to retailer. So we know if we want to be able to dive into not only the top side view of our business, but look retailer by retailer or at our key accounts, we want to be able to filter by retailer here. I can use the drop down, again, unselect all and pick one of my retailers. Then I go ahead and select OK. And we'll see that the dashboard will update now entirely for this particular retailer. Now, as we dive in deeper on this particular retailer, we can see again our product category, stores, silhouettes, and styles that are driving the business here, as well as those key performance indicators up at the very top. We can also dive in a little bit further within the data because there are additional timeframes that you can see. So there's month to date, season to date, year to date, and a date range. And you can do this from a retail dollar perspective or a unit perspective. We know last week is incredibly important to look at, of course, but we want to be able to look at longer timeframes. So that's why we have these options here that give you the same view, but just incorporate more time. The date range is a great option to utilize as well. You can actually drag and select on a sliding bar which weeks you want to be able to look at. This is important for maybe getting prepped and coming up to a big season. How are we doing in these weeks leading up to our season or our promotional period? Or what are the sales during that big season, holiday timeframe, or promotional period? You want to be able to continue to analyze as you move throughout so that you can react within season, but then also as you go forward. We can now dive into the details a little bit further to better understand our top areas of the business and investigate where there are replenishment opportunities and potential risks for stockouts. Again, we have our same filter. So this is where you can have some flexibility. You can dive in at a retailer, product category, silhouette, etc. level, or also whatever is important to your business to have these here. I will again engage with the dropdown underneath retailer, unselect all, and pick our big box retailer again. This will again update the entire dashboard. You'll hear me continue to repeat this as I'm making filtering selections, but I love to point this out because you don't have to create 50 reports to be able to look at the same thing, but rather you can just engage with these filters, have a couple clicks, update to what you want to see, and then click back out and change your selections. An awesome area on this retail sales opportunities tab is going to be this location-based map. What we can see here are going to be states where we are seeing average sales per store at the highest percentage, medium, and then lowest. You can see that by the green, the yellow, and the red. So we can come to conclusions from what we see here. Are we seeing more green and yellow, for instance, on the West Coast? And we're seeing that, better performance there versus other areas across the map. You can see as I'm hovering over here, there are additional metrics that are located within the tooltip just to paint the picture a little bit better. With this knowledge, we'll be able to better allocate in the current season as well as in the future. You can maybe allocate more inventory to higher selling states to meet higher demand. If we go to the very top here where we see our highest selling products and our highest selling stores, this is again from a last week perspective, but note that there are multiple timeframes down at the bottom as well. We're looking at our dollar sales as well as our weeks of supply. So really checking who are my top performers and how does that compare to the health of my inventory, which we use our weeks of supply metric. Weeks of supply metric is taking into account what's currently on hand and the rate of sale over the last 4 weeks to indicate if I continue to sell the way I sell, how many weeks of supply will I have for these top styles and these top stores. Again, I filtered over to the big box retailer. So if I look at the specific style description, I see my essential cushioning shoe limited as my top seller. And we're starting to see pretty quickly here by a visual perspective, this bar is quite small. So that's starting to say we're starting to decline in our weeks of supply. Perhaps this is something that we want to go ahead and take a look at. If I hover over this bar as well, we can see additional information. So we'll see the actual sales dollars, we'll see our units on hand, the units sold, as well as sell-through information. What we can also do is actually click into this bar like we did on the first tab to drill in and actually see what are the stores that are selling this top product and are we at risk here. Something that's probably a huge red flag is that we see our top store and pretty much the store that really is selling this top style is pretty much out of stock. Now, this is something that, of course, if we were continuing to use this dashboard, we'd be able to see these weeks of supply dwindle across these styles and locations and get ahead of this. We obviously don't want to miss out on any demand, especially in a top store that's driving a top style at our retailer. Finally, if we transition over into our weekly tabs, our weekly trends tab, excuse me, now we can start to understand some more trends over time. So we're kind of looking at snapshots, right? Last week, month to date, etc. This is the date range that you're able to look at. You can slide these filters up at the top to again hone in on specific weeks that you want to be able to look at. And this will allow you to see shifts in demand when looking at multiple weeks of data. Where are there peaks and valleys across these key metrics? We have dollar sales, unit sales, our retail on hand, our units on hand, gross margin, as well as sell-through from a this year and last year perspective. So where are these peaks and valleys, and can we spot relationships across metrics to help paint a picture as to why these trends occurred? So you can always look at your sales and your inventory and your sell-through. Are things starting to peak up at the same time and then decline at the same time, knowing that maybe you sold out of your inventory, sell-through slowing down because maybe the demand slowing down because there's no inventory? Or are you seeing a peak and maybe a decline within the gross margin perspective with something being sold at promotion, and that's maybe why you're moving through sales so quickly here? Again, you can always engage with these filter panels to continue to dig into your business and really understand where these trends are. So looking at these trends will help you as you continue to move forward throughout the year. Again, will similar trends occur based on what we are seeing this year as we prep for upcoming seasons? Or do we need to look at additional data to better round out our conclusions? So something that's incredibly helpful in addition to looking at your current year is looking at multiple years of history to improve your forecasting for the future. When you pull in multiple years of history, this helps to level set your data and more accurately predict how areas of your business will perform go forward. This dashboard that we see right here can be built ad hoc in the analytics solution and allows users to pull multiple years of history to compare this year to 2 years ago, or what we call LLY. Again, this will be incredibly helpful at this point in time, as we all know 2020 was an anomaly of a year, and looking at just this year versus last year is not likely going to paint the full picture that we need. So for our purposes today, this dashboard is really just based off of retail sales. But please note that we have over 800 metrics within our analytics library, so you can pull in additional pieces of information. Do you want to look at unit sales, on-hand information, sell-through? Those are all going to be great metrics to better paint this picture and understand this year versus 2 years ago. We also can include any of the filtering that you want. You'll see similar filters that we were looking at before, but depending on what's important in the item hierarchy, you can go ahead and continue to drill down. If we look at our weekly trend by year line graph here, we can see from the start of the year up until the current week in the NRF calendar, we see the green and gold lines that are pretty similar to one another. And then we see this pink line that's a little bit below them. We can tell from this that that's our 2021 and 2019 lines up at the top here. They're performing pretty similarly. If we think about this time last year, it makes sense to us why we're seeing the dip that we're seeing in the 2020 line. We can then go over to our year over year performance and look at each year sales week by week by week, and then come over to the 2021 versus 2019 variance metric and verify these variances. Are they what I would expect to 2019? Do they fall in line? And how can I continue to watch these as the year progresses so I can better make my future plans or make future forecasts, knowing that I have a year to normalize it against? You can also, of course, take 2020 into account, but know that 2019 will be a great baseline. So utilizing all that analytics has to offer between existing and ad hoc reporting will assist in pulling essential information that will be critical when it comes to making informed business decisions today, as well as forecasting in the future. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Colby.
All right, thanks, Claire. So Claire is part of our retail intelligence team. So all you current customers out there that are leveraging SPS analytics, we have a team of people just like Claire that comes along with your service. That's part of our full service promise here at SPS. So if you haven't leveraged that team, reach out to your account executive to help get a session set up, things like that. I know they're a great resource that we want everybody to leverage. So we're going to start up again here with a poll question as we go into our next part of our on conversation. So you should have seen that just pop up in front of you. So the question is, where do you all find point of sale analytics most impactful in your business? Now, this is a multiple choice question. The ability to maybe manage the business more proactively, respond to new trends you're seeing, stock out situations like Claire talked about in her short demo there, or maybe you're looking at it from a more forecasting and planning perspective, rolling that up to your senior leadership teams, looking through and looking at sales or inventory performance. So I'd love to see what we have here in terms of results as we go along. It looks like the results are in here. So pretty split, a lot of different categories seeming to be impactful, but it looks like forecasting came out on top. So probably why you're at this webinar today, just to learn a little bit more how companies are planning and forecasting for the next phase of their business. So with that, we're going to transition to our second half here. I'm going to bring in Jack Greeley from SPS here to help facilitate. So take it away, Jack.
Thanks, Kobe. I appreciate it. It's my pleasure to have Stephanie Dominguez and Steve Lowry from Oboes with me today. So Steve, why don't you kick us off and tell us a little bit more about Oboes and your role over there?
Sure, thanks. So Oboes Footwear is a hiking footwear brand that was founded in 2007. We're based out of Bozeman, Montana, and build true to the trail outdoor footwear that's inspired by the 18 million acre Greater Yellowstone ecosystem that surrounds us. While we've just recently launched a direct-to-consumer website that I recommend everybody go check out, historically, we've been a wholesaler that's relied pretty exclusively on our network of independent retail partners to sell our footwear. We have a relatively small internal sales team, just a few on the sales side. But with the rapid growth that we've been experiencing, we've also created a new to our brand sales operations department. So that's been pretty exciting over the last 14, 16 months. In my role as the sales operations planning manager, I use forecasting and analytics to create revenue forecasts, identify actionable insights, making sure that we're maximizing all the opportunities that we're seeing so that we're meeting all those financial goals.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. And Stephanie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm the key account analyst here at Oboes Footwear, and my job is essentially to keep an eye on what is selling and to optimize what we provide to our top retailers to make them as successful as possible. So I provide weekly reports to our internal team to keep everyone on the same page and ensure we all have enough information to make the best possible decisions as a brand.
Great. Thanks, Stephanie. So in recent months, I know that Oboes has added point of sale data for many more retailers. Steve, can you go ahead and tell us how having these added insights has impacted your business at all levels of the organization?
Yeah, so kind of taking a step back, we've had the point of sale data for our largest customer for a little while now, and immediately recognize the potential that there is in getting that same data for our other top partners. Getting that point of sale data has allowed us to better predict product and channel trends. Over the last year, it's been really important looking at online versus brick and mortar performance, as those trends differ quite a bit, especially with our brand. And we've also been able to get ahead of future inventory issues that we can predict using those sell-through metrics. With all that, we've been able to assist the buyers at these top retailers who often don't have the space when they're dealing with a lot of different brands, and as crazy as the last year has been, have been pretty swamped. So we've been able to focus on their unique needs, really get into that detail and provide thoughtful suggestions that are backed up by that data. That's really helped us grow sales with these partners, better diversify our business, and then in turn, better plan our inventory position as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Stephanie, now obviously the theme of today is forecasting. Can you share how you use analysis, including year-over-year comparisons for each retailer?
Sure. So year-over-year comparisons really help us to keep track of what has worked in the past, what is working now, and allow us to see how changes in strategy or consumer behavior impact the business. So, for example, there is one retailer I interact with primarily, and due to the pandemic, this retailer closed its physical stores last spring. And it's been really interesting to see how online sales trends really took off this time last year because of the doors being closed, but also how they have yet to taper off. So that knowledge allows us to guide them as they continue to develop strategies for inventory management. So keeping inventory at their distribution centers for longer so they can continue to fill online demand, and just really sort of tailor the way that our interaction with the brand is going based on where the inventory is needed most.
Great. So it sounds like you've been able to use the data to not only continue sustained growth, but also prepare for additional growth down the line. So Steve, one thing that's really impressed me about you and the Obos team is how purposeful you were in rolling out the data to your entire organization. So do you mind sharing a bit about how you planned for the data views, defined ownership, and then engaged individuals at all levels of the org?
Yeah, we started small at the beginning when we first brought on this platform. I was the only person with access and training, and with a small team, we recognized that while we had the opportunity to access all of this great data for all of our top retailers, we needed to be intentional and deliberate with our rollout to truly understand the data that we were digesting, really make accurate assumptions from the beginning and then build up from there. Like I said before, we started receiving data, that POS data from just our top retailer, and built some canned reporting and analysis, started to distribute that internally on a weekly basis, which really helped us gain confidence in that data and the assumptions that we were making. This also gave us a really good foundation to build from. So we knew we were growing our sales operations department, and it was really important that we had that foundation in place before we brought on Stephanie in the key account analyst role. And with Stephanie on board, we've been able to bring on more retail partner data and really begin to distribute that data, that same style of reporting and analysis that we've proven out to our external sales rep force to really empower them to approach conversations with retailers from a position of more information. It's really helped us build trust with those retailers and that data. So it's been really critical.
Great. Well, the process seems to be working really well and was especially needed this past year with sales taking off. So Stephanie, can you share how you managed your key accounts during these crazy times and what metrics were most useful to you?
Yeah, it certainly was crazy. So it was really helpful to keep an eye on the on-hand metrics as sales continued to skyrocket, even as port delays and other supply line challenges meant that inventory continued to struggle. So it's really one thing to hear about in-stock deficits from a retail partner, but it's so much more insightful to have access to the details. Which styles are out of stock? Which styles are selling despite this? So we were able to put style performance, which is something I report on weekly, into context. So it's one thing to say, oh, the Bridger Sudan, which is a really popular style of ours, isn't doing well this week, but another to be able to link that to the fact that our top retailer as a whole only has 100 of them left. So on hand is definitely one of the metrics that I rely most on.
Great. And Stephanie, I just wanted to do a quick follow-up to your remarks and our demo showing how to use multiple years of historical sales for improved forecasting. Is this something that you're doing? And if so, what is the process and how impactful has it been for you?
Yeah, comparison to last year has been really important given the pandemic, especially for a retailer like our top retailer that had its doors closed this time last year. So that link year function of the LLY dashboard is really invaluable for creating a visual depiction of how the pandemic impacted business, while also offering a good point of comparison for the year as far as 2019 goes, because we all know 2020 is hopefully an anomaly. So nothing that is very useful to compare against.
Thanks, Stephanie. And then Steve, can you tell us how data has changed your customer relationships and have they become more collaborative?
Yeah, so the short answer to the collaboration is yes. Our relationships have definitely become more collaborative. Access to this data, like I'd said before, has really given us the ability to act as the buyer, and a buyer focused on only our brand. So when we have these conversations with our customers, being able to come from a place of more detailed knowledge is super important. Our goal is really to make our customers' lives easier. And when we can proactively call out specific risk or opportunity that we're seeing using the same data that the customer has access to, it really helps us make that partnership more collaborative. Internally, it's allowed us to be much further ahead of necessary actions that we need to take. If we're seeing sell-through slow on a given product across our top retailers, we can engage with those customers and adjust future POs earlier. We can then take a look at things that are selling really well and bolster those quantities. And rather than just being reactionary in season when you recognize, oh no, we have way too much in stock on this given product, and you wind up dealing with a big return. Being able to get ahead of that is super important. And if we can, try to bolster quantities on products that are selling well, that then goes back to our planning team, and we can use that to help plan our factory buys as well. And in the past with just the sell-in data, we were much more reactionary. So it's helped us to be more proactive for sure.
Perfect. Well, we appreciate the insights. Thank you so much, Stephanie and Steve, for joining us. Well, now I'm sure our audience has a few questions for us. So Kobe, do you mind taking us back into our Q&A?
Absolutely. Thanks, Jack. And welcome back, all the panelists here. We're going to take a couple questions from the group. So just taking a look at our Q&A, we've got a couple good ones here that I'd love to ask. So maybe with the first one, I'll ask Ryan, since you're on the sales team over there at Airhead. How do you work with your purchasing department in utilizing some of this sell-through data to make it actionable? Is there specific things that you're doing, knowing that you have some direct import orders, things like that, in your planning process?
Yeah, so we, historically, we used to just look at what we sold into the customer and identify forecasts based on that, which was typically quite inaccurate. So what we've done is we've created layers where we'll look at what our sell-in was, as well as what their sell-through was and what they still have on hand, and try and back those numbers out and plan accordingly with that. Now, with our business in the water sports and winter sports, since we're so seasonal, we have to do our planning much in advance. So, if we're too late, then we're not going to get the product in time and we'll miss the season. So typically the way that I have worked it just recently is folding in those layers and then looking for a buffer or a contingency plan on other products. I'll take, just one of our customers, for example, pre-tickets a lot of their products. So we will look at a standard plan and then a chase plan, and the chase plan kind of just shifts over to inline product. It's the same that ships out of our DC. So fortunately for us, all of this data coming together has enabled us to look at the full picture of what their needs are, what we have on hand, what they have on hand, and then build out container programs based on DC, it does a few different things for us. So it eliminates the additional 3 weeks that it takes for product to hit our DC and then go out to theirs. It eliminates repackaging or repacking product here, so we can get it directly to them in a quicker amount of time. We have a cadence plan that's set up to deliver at specific times to meet their needs versus just hoping that we have it in stock on our side. So, really, it's been extremely beneficial to us as far as time savings and margin improvement on their side to go direct. So just to put that in perspective, when I started at Airhead Sports Group, out of my account base, I think we shipped about 16 to 18 containers. And then last year we moved it up to about 50. And this next year it's going to be at about 65 to 70. So the changes that we have been able to make by having both layers or all 3 layers of that information on hand to look at big picture has not only helped us with how we're getting product to the customer at a better time, it's helped them on a margin standpoint as well, because they can do either full import orders, or we can do a hybrid model where they're ordering some import and some comes directly from our DC. So I think that it's worked out well for the majority of our customers to move in that direction.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. So second follow-up question here. I think this one would be good for Steve, considering your role here. So how do you include this sell-through data in your demand planning process to manage specifically items that may have a longer lead time?
Yeah, so a lot of that comes into the forecasting work that we do. When we can recognize that a certain style is tapering or really taking off, we can use this sell-through data to predict weeks of sale that are left, and kind of identify when things are going to transition and provide that forecast at the style level to our demand planning team, where they can take that information and either cut future POs to make sure that we don't wind up over inventoried, or increase future POs. Yeah, it's definitely tricky, and it's always a moving target, but with more information, we're just able to make much better decisions.
Absolutely. Thanks, Steve. I think we have time for maybe one last question here, and I think this one would be great for Darby. Darby, I know that Osprey is utilizing multiple platforms to look at some of this data. You mentioned in your conversation component where you've got some data that's being pushed from SPS into an internal system, business intelligence application, as well as utilizing the performance analytics platform for SPS. Maybe talk a little bit about what that data that you're receiving into the business intelligence system is being used, and how you're interacting with SPS for that component.
Sure. As mentioned, we're pulling it into BI reports, and I think, I think several have commented on, it's one thing to see your sell-in data, but it's another to see the sell-through, and so being able to see them connected to each other or in one viewpoint has been super helpful for both planning future opportunities within the sales department, as well as giving vision to our demand teams, and all teams really involved in the building have access to the information by pulling it into that. And it's allowed us to enable teams to create their own view of the information to get the most out of it as they need in their roles. And so pulling it in that format has just given us a breadth of uses that we can create for individual teams.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Darby. So just want to wrap things up today. We're always open to continuing the conversation here at SPS, and I want to thank the panelists for coming on and sharing their knowledge about what they're doing and how they're utilizing data within their organization. Watch out for an email from SPS. We do want your feedback on this process, and this webinar. So fill out the survey. We will be providing $5 Starbucks gift cards for anybody who fills it out, and as well as we posted in the chat there. And if we didn't get to answer your question that you had in the chat or the Q&A today, don't worry, we'll get back to you on that. We want to make sure that we get all questions answered, whether they're more of a strategic question or a question about how to utilize the SPS platform for what Claire showed you today. Would love to have those conversations and help us use that as much as you can. So, and as always, if you want to learn more about what we've got going on here, feel free to email us, call us. But we've got Megan Becker, who's going to be our point person. If you've got any questions, you can reach out to her or reach out to your account executive here at SPS if you have any further follow-up. But with that, I want to again thank everybody who participated today and all the questions and the polls. So we really appreciate it, and we will catch you next time. Thank you.